say that women are not public, right? Women are not public, right? Men are public, women are not public. Men are rational, women are not rational. Men have penises, women do not have penises, right? So if women are not rational and women are not public, the question is, well, what does it mean not to be public, right? How can I make sense of what it means not to be public? And I'm sure you have already anticipated. Well, women are private, right? And it's because women are private that women will be relegated to the home, right? Women will be relegated to the home. Women become nurturers and caregivers. Women use their emotional attachment to provide for the well-being of the children and so on, right? And that this is this is the argument, this is a direct result of women's sex, right? The fact that she is female, right? This goes the argument. So that women then are relegated to the home. Now, this is not to say that there aren't some women that don't mind being housewives. This is not to condemn being a housewife, right? Being a housewife is not a problem. There is a problem, however, to say that a woman's place is in the home, right? It might be the case that a particular woman finds satisfaction and comfort in being a housewife, and she should have that right. But the insistence on saying that all women, right, to make the universal claim that all women should be relegated to the home becomes problematic, right? And there is the claim that all women should be relegated to the home. And proponents of that claim are sort of non-technically in a colloquial or sort of general sense known as chauvinists, right? The paradigm that governs that claim, that supports the claim that women should be relegated to the home, is known as patriarchy. Patriarchy, right? And that's what we're going to be talking about, right? Patriarchy. Feminism, in its most general sense, is a challenge, right? It is a challenge. It poses the greatest challenge, the greatest insistence for recognition of the woman to patriarchy, right? So that patriarchy and feminism are on two ends of the poles. They are in a polemic relationship, right? In an antagonistic relationship. Patriarchy supports the claim that women should be relegated to the home, and feminists argue that what we need to do now is we need to bracket our discussion, and we need to reassess all of these negations, right? We need to reassess all of these negations. As I said, with respect to the Xbox, you are no better at understanding, you are no closer to understanding what an Xbox is, right? Is by discussing it in terms of what it is not, right? It is not a car, it is not a brush, it is not a cup. You still have no idea of what it is. What I need to do is make affirmative statements of what it is in order for you to understand. Similarly, feminists argue that you are no closer to understanding what a woman is, right? And anytime we're talking about is, we're talking about being, right? The being, the nature of this individual by describing this individual in terms of what it's not, right? But that is still only a very superficial stance, right? What's important to understand on a deeper level is the function that patriarchy serves, right? And that becomes the first question that we have to address, right? And the question is, what function does patriarchy serve? Well, if we've recognized that under a patriarchal system, there are many feminists who argue that the individual woman is relegated to the private sector, is relegated into subservience, is relegated and defined by her emotional attachments rather than her logical ability to analyze, in the fact that she lacks the very thing that defines the essence of a man, this penis. Well, patriarchy serves a lot of functions. And the argument is that those functions are to create a very hierarchical structure wherein women are subordinated to men. So the first question is, what function does patriarchy serve? And in discussing the embodiment of women, the first thing, and there's many, I'm not going to go through all of them, is to discuss the role of subjugation. Women are to be subjugated to men, right? Men have control. Men have power. We'll talk about power right after this, right? Men have control. Men have power. Men make the decisions. Men have influence. Women have no control. Women have, hence, hysterical, right? And I can get into that. Women have no power. They're weak. Women have no influence. The only caveat being that women have influence within the home, right? They have no influence within the public sector, right? So that women are subjugated under a system of patriarchy. The next thing to recognize is that it's not only the case that women are subjugated in a patriarchal system. It's not only that women have to answer to men, but on a much deeper level, women's existence, women's identity becomes defined by men. Right? That's important, and I'll give you an example shortly. I'll say that again. Under a patriarchal system, feminists argue that women's existence, their being, remember, is to exist, their being becomes defined by a man. Their very existence is indebted to a man, right? So that existence, E-X-I-S-T, existence is defined by a woman's existence becomes defined by a man. The simplest example is the practice of surnames, right? Surnames is an example, right? My last name is Campbell. My wife's last name is Campbell. Her maiden name was something else, right? But her last name now is Campbell. A patriarchal system, the way that you identify yourself is by naming yourself. Hello, I am Dr. Jason J. Campbell, right? The doctor tells you the title that I have earned in life. Jason is my first name. I was given that name. J stands for John, and Campbell is my surname, right? That was the name that I was given to by my father and his father and his father and his father's father and so on and so forth, right? I'm sure my original surname was something African, but that's a different discussion. Okay, so surnames, right? My wife, she had her maiden name, she marries me, and now she has my name. Now her name now becomes Mrs. Campbell. There are some women within Western society that choose to hyphenate their name, right? And under a patriarchal system, you could keep the name that you had prior, your maiden name, and you can hyphenate it with your married name. However, under a patriarchal system, you are maintaining your father's surname, right? So that name and the way that you identify yourself is still tied to a man, right? Now, in matriarchal systems, this is different, right? But in a patriarchal system, you're identified by your father's name, or prior to marriage, or your husband's name after marriage. If you want to hyphenate your name, then you're still identifying yourself by your father's and your husband's name, right? So that your identity, your existence, is defined by a man.